When it comes down to financial setbacks, there is a lot to unpack. In fact, I've been through several financial setbacks. Three of them were actually layoffs, and yes, they happened around the holiday season. That's their favorite time to let you off. But I survived all of them, and I want you to survive any type of setback, especially a financial setback as well. So I'm going to share with you my tips on survival, and then what can you learn and hopefully take away in your season of financial setbacks. Hi, my name is Adora, and this is Miss Adora TV, where we talk about all things faith, we talk about business, our lifestyle, being the best person we can be, and we are a community here. So if this is your first time, I just want to say welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, I want to say thank you so much for supporting the channel. You really count. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and get into it. How do you survive financial setbacks? What does it mean moving forward? Are you going to get through this? Yes, you are. So when it comes down to surviving, one of my first experiences was at a Fortune 500 company, and I had just got this job. It had paid me, or they were going to pay me about $20,000 more than I had been making at my current job. And so I went ahead and took the leap. I wanted to move and do it. It was what looked to be like a good experience. And so when I got there, there was another guy. He was pretty close to my age, and we were coming in at the same time. But the rest of the team were a little bit more established. And when I say a little bit more established, they had been there 25 to 30 years. So they were there quite a while. And so our job was to just come in and support them in the areas that they did not have the capacity to do. And so we were learning and growing with them. So I decided that I wanted to move closer to the job, so I needed to get a new apartment. And so I found one that was pretty affordable for my new salary. And they had me, since it was my first apartment, they needed me to have my manager sign off. So I had my manager sign off, and I got the apartment. And fast forward 3 months later, and I am called into the office. And so once I get into the office, there is me, the other guy that just got hired the same time as me, and then there's a few of the of our team members. And they tell us, "Hey, we're sorry. We're having a nationwide layoff, and unfortunately, you guys are going to be let go." Okay. So I'm in a situation where I have a new apartment, so now I'm paying rent. I'm in a situation where I can't go back to the other job because, well, it was paying way less and it wouldn't help me with the rent. And so now I'm in a financial setback, right? So there were a couple of things that, thankfully, since I was taught before this time period, that I had in place. And the first thing was to make for sure that I established a savings. So even though I was only there 8 months total, I had already been saving for 6 of those 8 months, and I already had enough savings to last me at least 6 months. And so that is the first piece of advice I want to give you. If you know, or you can feel that a layoff may be possible, or you may be losing money coming into the future, make for sure that you are saving and you have enough savings to kind of pat yourself and prepare for that setback, because it helped me so much, especially since I had this new rent that I had to pay. And then I also had other living expenses, right? So those things didn't go away because the job went away. So I had a little bit of a cushion to help me out, along with the servants package, which was tiny. And then I had a little bit of unemployment come in after those 6 months. So making for sure that you have savings is key in any financial setback. The next thing you want to think about is cutting expenses. So the first thing I had to do was to cut back on things like just random softwares or random programs that I didn't need. I didn't cut back on Netflix, even though I know a lot of people would say to, because if you're not working and you need some kind of form of entertainment or some kind of normalcy, it's okay to keep the things that you're looking at. But so expenses like grocery deliveries and things like that, those are the types of things that you should cut out if you don't use it frequently, because you can just get in the car and go get your own groceries. And while you're building yourself back up and trying to get back on course, those are the secondary things that you don't necessarily need. So cut back on the things that you don't necessarily need. They're not going to go away forever. You can always pick them back up when you get on your feet, but you want to make for sure that you are cutting expenses. Now, before you cut out everything, if you're one of those, I want you to think about this too. So I was always one of those people, like I said, I was an avid saver, so I always saved money. But there is a point where you still need to maintain a social relationship with friends, and you still need to get out the house, and you still need to have fun. So you don't want to cut yourself out too much to where you don't have any freedom. So I want you to think about that. So I'm telling you to cut expenses, but I'm not telling you to cut out everything. So my second one is to make a budget. So I did this by cutting out my expenses and then having a specific budget that I was going to have on a weekly basis. So I knew at some point I couldn't go out the 3 or 4 times like I used to when I had employment, right? So I had to cut it back to maybe I'm going to go out once or twice. So I would get a coffee or I would go out and have lunch. But it's key to make for sure that you are still keeping up a certain level of social life, that you're still keeping a certain level of normal life. So you don't want to fall into depression because you're not spending anything. And if you're a saver, you can easily fall into that habit by trying to save every little thing. So even though we do want to have savings together, we are probably living out of the savings at that point. You do still want to have a budget that's going to help you continue to have a life. So don't drop all of your social life, but you do want to make for sure that you're spending the money in the areas that you need them, and then only a little bit in the areas that really help you keep going. So if I had to cut out everything and just dropped everything, I know for sure I would have fell into depression. Next, you want to make for sure that you are, especially if you owe money like on credit cards and student loans. I know for me, at that time I had loans that I needed to pay every month. And since I didn't have the job, it would have cost me to fall behind. So let your creditors know what your situation is. It's better to let your creditors know what your situation is than to fall behind, because then you'll start being further and further behind and not being able to catch up, and it'll affect your credit. So if you call your lenders and let them know like, hey, this is my situation, most likely 1 or 2 things will happen. They can either get your payments down lower, or they're going to either delay your payment. So you can either furlough. And that's kind of what I did during that time for student loans. So if you let them know, again, it's not going to hurt your credit, but it's going to help you get back and give you some time to get back on your feet, because that's exactly what you want to do. And this is the perfect time, even though it feels really tough during a financial setback, you need to be really evaluating, what are my actual goals? What do I want to see in the future? Where do I want to move in the future? How does my career look like? How does my social life look like? How does my personal life look like, right? Because we don't want to, our world is not revolving around a job, or it's not revolving around our career. Our life is what those things revolve around. And so having the time, like not having to wake up at 8 or be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's the perfect time for you to really ask God, what is it that I need to be doing? And then what angles do I need to do? Why didn't I like the last job? Is there something about the last job that made me XYZ, right? And so for me personally, after being laid off 3 times, I realized that there was a pattern. And so I asked God what was going on. I eventually went ahead into being a business owner. And so that took some time too. But again, I still had that savings. And so this is the time for you to ask and evaluate too, where do I need to be going? What is my next direction? And how should I be moving forward? And you'll be surprised by the answers that you get. I mean, sometimes you really will be surprised. And if it means going back into another company, you really need to be evaluating what type of team you want to be a part of. You know, what kind of manager do you work well with? Is that the type of industry you want to be in? Because all of these things affect your performance as well. So I hope these tips on surviving financial setbacks are helpful to you. I know, again, it can feel really painful, like, you know, you don't really know what's next, but don't take it so hard. Don't take it so personal, because these setbacks happen to a lot of people. It happens to all of us, really. It's inevitable. And you're always going to have to prepare for something that's out of your control. Okay, so stay positive and stay in there and use these tips. Reevaluate what you want to do, stay proactive, and you will surely get through any financial setback. Hope these tips were helpful. I will see you in the next one. If you're a business owner, please check out the following video where I talk about money management, which I think is pretty helpful, especially as a business owner. And to the next one, bye.